Feel the heart. Experience the soul. Community Pulse.
The preservation of tribal law, the preservation of religion, and the preservation of morality. So here we find that circumcision has a beautiful spiritual and moral meaning.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So we are covering part 3 of Pathways to Sexual Courtesy, with a special focus on circumcision and its link to masturbation. Now, Sister Magboeba, you've introduced examples of two, let's say, quote unquote, uncivilized, peoples. The examples in history of, their approach to the concept of circumcision. And I say quote unquote uncivilized because that is what history has painted them as. We've done our research. We know better that the African tribes, the Native American people, the people who lived in harmony with the earth, were far from uncivilized.
Absolutely, Sister Kadra. And I think we can actually stand tall. We can stand on their shoulders today.
Yes.
We can learn from their practices. Sister, it's eternally valid.
Yes.
Because when I looked into the Kisi people,
yes,
the Kisi people, it's a people who actually come from Congo, and they lived along the Nile Valley.
Okay.
Yeah, and during the 19th century, they were colonized by the British, right? But they managed to keep their culture intact. So they actually taught me, really, the understanding behind circumcision, right? That it's not merely the cutting of the flesh.
Yes.
That it marks the entry point into the adult world, right? So in their particular practice is every year 1,000 children are being circumcised. Otherwise, you will always be viewed as a child by the tribe, right? So that marks, that circumcision practice actually, it marks him as being now entering into the adult world.
Yeah.
Right? So only after the circumcision, that one is expected to show respect, abandon childhood behavior, and become adult. So it's actually abandoning or the ending of foolishness.
Yeah.
When children are children, Sister Kadira, they need to be treated as children.
Yes.
Right? And when you become, and as you mature, or you become more mature, you must be treated as an adult, because with that comes responsibilities.
Yes.
Right? So at this stage in the life of children is to sit in an orderly manner, and that is the point, because now your time of foolishness is actually over.
Yes.
Right? So what also happens prior to this particular practice, Sister Kadira, prior to when they do have these ceremony of boys being circumcised, weeks of education and training of societal issues, how to relate to one another and society. Isn't that what men really is there for, Sister Kadira, to protect and to maintain the values of the tribe and the laws of the tribe? Isn't that their duty? So here they actually go into training, right? So here we really see the purpose of circumcision, right? Boys of 10 years undergo 3 months of preparation. Now for me, it's so beautiful.
Yes.
And also feeling the pain, connecting the feeling of pain with respecting oneself. They're also being taught sexuality, human life, and being good. And the values that makes them responsible men and women is also being circumcised, also a sign of showing maturity.
Yes.
Right? So this is just the practices of these the Kisi people, the African traditions, Sister Kadira. But to me, it's such a universal lesson, and I see it also as a missing dimension.
No, definitely.
Isn't
it?
Something that because here it's been advertised, your circumcision has been advertised as like a prevention of HIV and AIDS. But HIV and AIDS can only be spread
Transmitted.
or transmitted to another through sexual practices, isn't it?
So how would then
Yes.
how would a practice of how would the practice of circumcision then prevent the spread
Absolutely.
of HIV? Yeah.
Also, why must the boy, why that part of the body? Why not any other part of the body?
Yeah, it's interesting when you reflect on the way things were done in the past, and how things come from a traditionally, using this example of the Kisi people, the amount of preparation and education that goes into it. Because obviously a child of 7 to 10 years old is of an age of understanding. You can issue an instruction and they'll follow an instruction. You can, they'll ask questions. They understand certain things. And so for you to just encourage for you to just make sure that they undergo a transition, because that's essentially what it is, such as this, without them informing them of what it is that it's cruel in a sense, and even the manner in which it's done these days, the crass way in which it's advertised, it leaves one to wonder, is there any spirituality left in these sort of practices?
Absolutely, Sister Contra.
Well, Sister Magboeba, we'd love to hear from our listeners as well. For all of you who are tuned in, join our conversation via WhatsApp 078-610-1112. We will not be taking calls, but do send your WhatsApp messages through to 078-610-1112. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on our topic of discussion for this morning. We'd also love any questions that you have. Please do send them through. I'm in studio with Sister Magboeba. This is part 3 of Pathways to Sexual Courtesy. We are putting a special focus on circumcision and its link to masturbation.
Yeah, also why the genitals, Sister Kadra? Why that part of the body why is it done also in the presence of other men? Right?
Yes.
Even though they are being anesthetized, right? Sexual humiliation, right? It breaks the bond with the mother. Right? So it's like killing the child in order to bring the adolescent into life. So here, this whole idea of circumcision is now being given purpose.
Yes.
Right? So here it is societal pain and pressure. Isn't that what the male's duty is, Sister Kadra?
Yes.
To be able to be to take pressure and societal pain, and also why circumcision at that particular age is to test their pain threshold.
Yes.
Right? So here, what we also understand by circumcision is the showing of fear and pain is to humiliate oneself before the community. It's like training the ego.
Yes.
Now you cannot go out in the world, Sister Kadra, really with an ego that's bigger than yourself. And you have to now really provide for your families and maintain and protect your communities.
Yeah.
And this is what we see within our governments today, in our corporates today, isn't it? Men with big egos. Right? So here we see that, the understanding of that these people actually had.
Yeah.
Now, even though you had you circumcised your child at that young age, perhaps, or as a baby, Sister Kadra, I think it's important that we do sit down with our children and tell them the meaning behind circumcision.
Yeah.
It's not only a physical cleanliness, Sister Kadra, and only not for sanitary reasons. There's a moral aspect to it as well as a spiritual aspect. Now, we as Muslims, we know that Islam is about refinement.
Yes.
Refining the human being.
And it's refinement in every aspect. It's not only refinement, from a sexual aspect. It's refinement of your behavior.
Yeah.
It's refinement of your nafs, of yourself.
Absolutely.
So that the best version of yourself is put out there.
Yeah.
It's the manner in which you interact with everybody else. It's the manner in which you interact with people of the opposite gender, whether or not you observe the boundary of hijab even.
Yeah, and this is done before the age of puberty, right? Because puberty is the age of choices.
Yes. And so the training needs to happen.
The training needs to happen. So I mean, this was for me so profound when I found this piece of research.
Yeah.
And how we today, and if it's explained to our children today, when it's done and when explained to them, it has with meaning.
Yeah.
You know, and there's because any ritual in Islam or any ritual that we perform,
Yes.
if it's done without intention, without purpose, without sincerity, it's just a blatant
It's
ritual.
just a ritual.
It's just a
Feel the heart. Experience the soul. Community Pulse.